listening to Indian Defense News. If you are new, please subscribe and press the bell icon to get notified when new video is uploaded.
Indian Army to remain on high alert across Indo-China border throughout winter. The Indian Army will continue to be in a state of high alert across the 4,000 kilometers long Indo-China border. An operational alert was declared this August as the standoff with the Chinese troops in the Doklam Plateau in Bhutan threatened India to go out of control. Beijing issued angry statements which included references to the 1962 Indo-China War. The operational alert has now been extended till further orders, as confirmed by the top sources to India Today. Sources said, the operational alert has been extended till further orders. Indian and Chinese troops were on an eyeball-to-eyeball deployment on the Doklam Plateau for over 2.5 months. The standoff was resolved after intervention from the highest office from both Delhi and Beijing. While both sides disengaged and moved back, troops from either side did not withdraw completely. While India pulled back about 600 meters back to its position, the Chinese troops too pulled back few hundred meters. But about 500 Chinese troops still remain. Rest of Chinese troops have been moved further back to Yatang and Kumbasong in Tibet. However, the situation has now cooled down in Beijing and New Delhi. But neither side is taking chances. On the ground, both sides are watching the other carefully, and it is nothing wrong keeping in mind the long standoff, a top source told India Today. DRDO hands over tech to defense firm to manufacture bulletproof jackets. The Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, has handed over its technology to a defense firm to manufacture bulletproof jackets for the armed forces. The government has decided to procure 1.86 lakh bulletproof jackets for the armed forces, and a majority of them will be manufactured by Kanpur-based private firm MKU Limited, which was given the DRDO-developed technology. The DRDO and MKU Limited also exchanged license agreement and other related documents at an event today, a Defense Ministry official said. The MKU will produce bulletproof jackets which will be lighter in weight than those being used by the armed forces currently. In his address, DRDO Chairman S. Christopher asked the private firm to maintain a strict vigil on the quality of the bulletproof jackets which will be used by the Indian Army and the paramilitary forces. US Defense Secretary James Mattis' New Delhi visit last week was the first time the top leaders of the two countries interacted at a high level following the announcement of President Donald Trump's new South Asia policy. The visit was preceded by widespread speculation that the two countries would hammer a deal for greater cooperation in Afghanistan, albeit in military terms. Considering an earlier offer by the US to relocate its F-16 fighter jet production line to India, a weapons deal was also highly anticipated. However, the outcome of the visit was different. While the two countries agreed to enhance defense and strategic cooperation, the actual statement by India's Defense Minister Nirmala Sitharaman focused on joint projects, in line with the Indian government's Make in India mission. Shaheen VI exercises end with a message for India. The sixth iteration of the Shaheen exercises, which were conducted by the Chinese Air Force, the PLAF, and its Pakistani counterpart, the PAF, at the Korla Air Base in China's Xinjiang province, ran from the 5th to the 25th of September. The PAF fielded its Chinese-designed JF-17 fighters, along with the F-7PG fighter aircraft, which is the export version of China's Chengdu J-7, that is, in turn, the Chinese version of the Soviet MiG-21, and its ZDK-03 AWACS aircraft, which is the Pakistan-specific export version of the Shankh CY-8 transport aircraft platform, that is, again, based on the Soviet Antonov 12 platform. The PLAF fielded J-8 and J-11 fighters, J-H-7 fighter bombers, KJ-200 AWACS, surface-to-air missile personnel, air defense controllers, ground crews and, according to one report, Chinese Navy aviation troops. The composition of platforms, systems and personnel indicates the growing sophistication and scope of the annual exercise. Russia tested a new and experimental type of intercontinental range ballistic missile multiple warhead delivery method in September 2017, the diplomat has learned, according to a U.S. government source with knowledge of a recent U.S. intelligence assessment of Russian ballistic missile testing, who spoke to the diplomat. Russia's Strategic Missile Force recently tested an independent post-boost vehicle, IPBV, configuration for a 3-warhead version of its solid-fuel, road-mobile RS-24 ICBM. The test was carried out on the 12th of September from a silo at Russia's Kura missile test range in Kamchatka Krai. It occurred just days before the start of the massive Russia-Belarus Zapad 2017 military drills. It's unclear if this was the first test of an IPBV configuration on a Russian ICBM. A Russian Defense Ministry official told the country's state-run TASS news agency that the 12th of September test involved an experimental detachable warhead design. The test was reportedly successful.